The Sheriff, Newell Normand on 870 AM and 105.3 FM.
Welcome back, folks. We're joined by Dan Mills, CEO of the Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans. Dan, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Newell.
So, Dan, there's a lot of conversation that has been going on here lately about steel-framed houses. Why is that, and what do we see in the near future relative to the utilization of same?
Well, I tell you, steel framing has been, it's one of those golden chalices. It's a dream, and it's a great thing to aspire for because, steel framed, particularly in our environment, it offers a great strength to weight ratio. It gives a great resistance to hurricane winds, severe weather, the kinds of things that we experience down here. It also resists warping, rot, termites, and a lot of people don't think about fire, right? It's non-combustible, so it adds fire resistance, which is also a significant consideration. But on the other hand, it pushes those costs up. And so that's really the primary driver that we don't see a lot of it in residential construction. Instead, we see it primarily in multifamily residential or commercial applications.
As it relates to single-family homes, what percentage increase would there be if you did utilize steel framing?
In terms of cost, I think you're asking. And
yes.
What we know
right
now, the most recent data that I looked up from the National Association of Home Builders is that material cost is about 10 to 20% higher than wood framing. But there is also a substantially higher labor cost because it does take a specialized workforce in order to construct these units. The joke is you go to frame a house with steel and your contractor shows up with hammers on their toolbox, on their tool belt, right? So it does require specialized connectors. It requires high-end engineering and a precision manufacturing process that, of course, adds to the quality, but also adds to the cost. So those labor costs can be anywhere from 20 to 35% higher as well.
So when we look at this, are there any benefits down the road, like insurance being one? I was reading some stories where people were having huge reductions in the cost of their homeowners as it relates to utilizing steel framing.
Sure. I mean, over the long term, steel's durability can reduce maintenance and repair costs. It could potentially offset higher initial costs over decades of use. The trick is finding that balance point, right? So the significant amount, in total, it could be, and in our experience, we've seen anywhere from 30% to 40% increase on the total cost of construction, including materials and labor. So that has a fixed price that you're spending up front on this home. So then you have to determine over the long-term ownership of this home, how long will it take you to earn that back? And that return on investment over time is the deciding factor. So a lot of things go into that. Are you going to be in that home for 40 years? Are you going to be in it for 10 years and resell it? It's hard to predict over the long term what those are going to look like. The big driver of this conversation in our area is, of course, insurance. And the issue that we have in insurance is that, number one, we don't have enough carriers to service our market. So we have carriers with an exposure rate of about 25% for our housing stock in the wind zone of South Louisiana, which is about 600,000 homes. So that means 75% have to go to the FAIR plan, or they have to go to a non-admitted carrier that doesn't offer insurance to their homeowners. So how do we get more carriers back? The carriers need data to evaluate the housing stock in our market. So we have new homes being built to the best codes in the country. The FEMA has a fact sheet out that shows 98.6% resilient code compliance in Louisiana. That is tied with Florida for best in country. But that's only new homes. Our challenge is we need to document the resiliency of the existing housing stock. So our goal right now is to get the resiliency of our housing stock documented. There's 600,000 homes south of I-10, which is essentially the wind zone of Louisiana. We're trying to get 165,000 homes documented through either a wind mitigation survey or a fortified roof replacement or a state-inspected roof replacement. And we've done a couple of things legally. On the last legislative session, we got The LDI is standing up a database to collect all this information, and that database was funded in the last legislative session. One of the problems that we haven't had inspections is that we don't have enough inspectors. So a storm comes, blows off 60,000 roofs. We don't have enough inspectors to go out and look at all these roofs when we replace them. So we passed legislation that allows for geotagged inspections. So they can take geotagged photos tied to an address on a property and document with photos exactly what was done in the roof replacement, thus getting an inspection potential. And in the last legislative session, legislation was passed that requires now statewide permitting for all roof replacements and licensures for roof replacers. So some amazing things are happening. And over the course of time, we will continue to document wind mitigation surveys, fortified inspections, and municipal inspections in a central database to attract more carriers back. And as we do that, that will drive the prices down for our insurance.
When we look at realistically, how quick could we assemble this or collect all of this data?
Well, the wind mitigation surveyors, we have 32 licensed surveyors in the state of Louisiana, and they've conducted somewhere around 15,000 wind mitigation surveys already. We have, through the state's fortified roof program, we've replaced 4,000 fortified roofs, and IBHS, which issues those certificates, indicate to us that we have about 8,000 credentials statewide. So if we can add those, that brings us up to about 22 or 23,000. And now with statewide permitting, Jefferson Parish was the first to adopt that. They have about 4,000 inspections documented in their municipal record. St. Bernard was the next. They have a few hundred, and New Orleans is doing their inspections. So as we bring those online and centralize them in a public database, we will grow that. So that puts us, in a potential of documenting 25 to 30,000 roofs, and we need to get to about 130 or 135,000. So it's going to take some time, maybe about 2 years or 3, to get to the point where we can document that. But once we do, the carriers know that they can come to this market and do business if we have the resilient housing stock to resist the damages of these storms.
Dan, this is going to sound a little crazy, but so I had a wind mitigation survey done, and it was huge. I mean, $300 cost. And I got significant reduction in insurance premiums. So the ROI was awesome, right? Many of the insurance carriers are saying that, many of the insurance agents have said to me that wind mitigation has proven more fruitful in the short term than fortified roofs as it relates to reductions in insurance premiums. When you think about the cost of the fortified roof versus the wind mitigation survey, why have we not developed an assistance program or whatever to get as many wind mitigation surveys done and completed as possible? Because that cost of entry is, $300. And, for those that can't afford it, even if we just income restrict that program, it would seem to me that we could get to these numbers a lot faster and quicker through the wind mitigation survey route as opposed to any other.
Newell, your logic, as always, is spot on. And at the Home Builders Association, our Remodelers Council stood up the only wind mitigation task force in the state of Louisiana that includes all of the wind mitigation surveyors licensed in Louisiana. And we have enjoyed the participation of Louisiana Department of Insurance, the Louisiana Code Council, as well as the licensing board in participating in the meetings. And this is exactly what we've determined, is that the return on investment from a wind mitigation document is twofold. The first is that it brings potentially immediate savings to the homeowner in terms of short-term insurance reductions. And we see that we did a survey, we looked at 321 wind mitigation surveys, and at an average of $300 per survey, the return on insurance savings in the first year was $2,100. So that's substantial, and that benefits the individual homeowner that gets the wind mitigation survey. But when we put these wind mitigation surveys into a database, we begin to document the resiliency level of the community's housing stock. And that then attracts more carriers back to our area and thus can bring those insurance prices down for the whole community. Just like in flood insurance, we know the CRS rating for Jefferson Parish improved. And so they're now enjoying an additional 10% discount on flood insurance, a total of 35%. So in the same way, we need to document the resiliency of our housing stock to attract those carriers back and get increased discounts in our area. So we are certainly promoting any kinds of programs that invest into that. I know that the parish president in Jefferson has looked at the potential for a wind mitigation fund that would help fund this cost, because again, it doesn't just help the individual homeowner, it helps the entire community. Each of these proposals are in different and varying states of moving forward.
And Dan, we have a pretty good idea, I think, as to if you look at the data construction of the home, as it relates to what the building code was at that point in time, there's a higher probability that you will reap benefits from a wind mitigation as opposed to older homes. Is that correct?
Yes, and it should be clear that a wind mitigation survey does nothing to improve the state of resiliency of your home. What it does is it documents the existing wind mitigation features that are not in the public record, that your insurance carrier is unaware of, and it can give them a third-party assurance that these features are in place, thus reducing the risk profile of your home and leading to insurance discounts. But the wind mitigation survey also serves to tell homeowners that there are options to increase the wind mitigation survey. So they can make suggestions. Hey, if you brace your gables, you can improve the wind resistance. If you add these storm shutters on the house, it can reduce it. If you add clips to the top plate of your home, it can reduce it. Most homes built since 1991 are going to have some of these features in place already. They're just not documented. And the wind mitigation survey does that at a very low cost, bringing significant savings for about 85% of folks that get one. For the others, it may be that they have to make some wind mitigation changes to their home, and we have licensed contractors that do exactly that. And the great news is you can deduct up to $10,000 in wind mitigation improvements on your home from your Louisiana taxes. So it is also a deduction to encourage private investment to increase the resiliency of our housing stock across the community.
So, and for example, some of these mitigation measures that you talk about, if you have an open attic, for example, some of that stuff I understand is relatively easily installed as well, and is not really a high cost item to do the installation, and yet you can reap those benefits on the back end.
Yeah, with open attics, you can, if you need hurricane clips, they can be installed. There are also, Fortified has a foam solution. Now, this is not the kind of foam that you spray for insulation and covers the whole inside of your attic. It is sprayed along the joists and along the seams, and it does two things. That foam penetrates and prevents uplift, so it gives you some structural support. And secondly, it seals the openings so that you have a secondary water barrier. And that can be done for about $3.50 a square foot, so very affordable and accessible option. And that can get you a Fortified certificate. But it's important to recognize that it can only be installed on a roof from the inside when the entire roof is accessible. So, if you have dormers, the roofs on those dormers are not going to be accessible. If you have a beamed roof, it's not going to be accessible. So it's not for everybody, but it is an option that's out there.
But when you're looking at the homes that were constructed like in the late 60s, early 70s, a lot of them don't have that. It wasn't, as popular as it is now. And you had a lot of, two-story homes, average size 24 to 2,600 square feet. So you had a second floor that was 1,300 square feet of space. And when you talk about those attics up there, and when they're open like that, it is relatively simple to access it and get a lot of that done. I find a lot of, like wind mitigation, the first time I did a segment on it, so many people didn't know about it. I mean, it's like, and I get texts every day now of people that have had a wind mitigation survey done, and they got huge savings on their homeowner. So it's something for them to consider.
And don't discount your home just because of its age. My home was 1972, but I got a discount because the structure of my home is a hip roof, right? So a hip roof it's very design resistant. So I got a discount just for that. I want to get in a quick plug because I want everyone to know out there that the state of Louisiana now requires a permit to replace the roof on your home. You may not know all of the code requirements and fortified requirements. You may not know about the licensure, but here's my advice. Don't let anyone on your roof unless a permit is in your window. Yes. So, again, I want to say it again. Don't let anyone on your roof unless a permit is in your window. If you have a permit in your window, your local municipality has done the homework to ensure that your contractor is putting the right thing on your home.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, as always, Dan Mills, CEO of Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans. Thank you for all that you guys do, and y'all are great corporate partners in our community, and we appreciate that as well.
Thanks, Newell. Anytime.
Thank you, sir. We'll be right back, folks.